guest starring. How about that?
Wow.
You guys are guest stars. Hey, this is Todd, Baxter, Monroe County Sheriff here in Rochester, New York, sharing the Behind the Badge podcast with three very famous cops in Monroe County, the city of Rochester. And they started their own podcast, and I thought I'd have them on talking about their podcast and the message trying to get out. And Johnny, I see the first picture I look at, it says, finally, common sense has arrived.
Yeah, it's our
I think that sums up your podcast really well.
Yeah, you know, we all had a dialogue about a couple years ago, and we started talking about how, and this is not a shot at mainstream media locally, but we just didn't feel like there was a lane, especially after 2020, 2021, 2022-ish, where people can actually get the other side of the story,
right,
especially from our perspective, because it's not a gag order. It's just general orders in general for cops. They can't talk to the media. So we came up with the idea of having a podcast after I retired, and then I assembled the band, and the rest is history.
Well, let's introduce the band, first of all, because when I first seen the concept come out and then the podcast, the cast of characters, it's a very dynamic group with Dave and Jay. And so how about just a quick introduction before we get too far into this? And I can introduce you guys, and you don't want me to do that because you don't want me to do that. So how about just a quick who you are and where you came from? And
my name's Johnny Fiorica. I haven't
seen you before.
Yeah, my name's Johnny Fiorica. I'm retired from the Rochester Police Department. I was a detective for 30 years. I retired in October of 2023. I grew up in the city of Rochester and worked in the city. I mean, I think it ended up being like 40-something. I either lived and or worked 40-something out of my 54 years on the planet here. Yeah, so we ended up going on the RPD in 1993, retired in 2023, and it was a fun run. It was a fun run.
Yeah,
Got a chance to work with you several times throughout my career.
That was one of the blessings. I'm so energized to have you guys here, but also honored because I know the cops you are, sincerely, and thank you. Thank you for joining us. But
our pleasure.
Nice hair, man.
Thanks,
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous.
Got nice lattice.
I'm going to say to
I
Dave, I'll get to you.
From the guy. I got a great shaped head, though. It's like,
David, you do. You're handsome, but I mean, I got a couple features, and
as my mom
couple
says,
features.
my face is so pretty it doesn't need hair.
Well, that's a good point.
Mom's always right.
Yeah.
I'll take what I can get. So as Johnny said, we started this. I'm the only guy on the pod that's still working. So I started I'm Jay Blanchard. I started in 2000. Sheriff was actually my class counselor.
Yep, many moons ago.
Sheriff started, got promoted when we were there.
Was that your class? Yeah.
That was my class.
Oh,
so
good.
Sheriff got promoted to sergeant in that class, and we didn't get him fired, which was impressive because our class was full of a bunch of beauties.
Yeah, you guys tried. Right?
we had some beauties. So so I'm still kind of grinding away. I'm 24 years at the end of this month. I still love what I do. Through the place where I am right now, I get afforded the opportunity to kind of go to a few community meetings in the northwest quadrant of the city, and I've been doing that for quite some time. And you get to meet people and kind of talk a little less candidly with the community groups. And now we have that audience to do it. I'm still cognizant of the fact that I'm still working, right? But it for me, it still fits. I still like it. I still work with a good group of men and women, and when that changes, then you stop, right? But right now, I still enjoy the job, and trying to keep grinding ahead.
It's amazing that you're still there and everything that we've all been through in the last few years, but in particular, the RPD has been through. The fact that you still don that uniform every day, and everybody that does, I don't care where you're a cop, the fact that they put that uniform on and go take calls, sometimes it dumbfounds me. Like, it's a tough job right now. It's really tough. But so thanks for staying in the fight.
I'm happy to be still part of the group for sure.
Yeah, it's a great group. And then my SWAT brother,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Simpson.
Yep. I'm Dave Simpson. I came on in the Sheriff's Department in 97 and then left for the city. And I pretty much did everything in law enforcement that was focused on drugs, guns, and violence for the whole time. So that was my area that I like to play with. And about 2019, I was a detective in major crimes with the city, and I noticed the game was kind of changing, and I didn't want to change. And I had the means to leave with some young children at home, and I decided that instead of having to adapt, I'd ride off in the sunset. So it was a great run, and I had a blast. I love being a cop, and when Johnny offered this idea up, I loved it because I wanted to help be the voice of the men and women who are out there still doing it. I can say and do pretty much what I want, and this platform allows me to do that. And I have a distrust with the media as far as how it portrays law enforcement specifically. I don't think they're our friend, so I think this gives us an opportunity to kind of hold them in check a little bit.
It's been amazing to watch. As I said, the growth of this. You know, from afar, it looked like it just came out of nowhere because we didn't see all the preparatory work and the meetings and the.
Oh, there wasn't much.
But the message is very clear, and you guys are wide open. That's one of the things we're talking off the air is, you know, you don't. In our world, we call them yes people, right? You don't bring just yes people on. You bring people that are, if you will, maybe even antagonistic towards law enforcement. And you're willing to have a conversation with them. That's what we've been begging for years, right? And how's that play out? I mean, you can bring our man Brett on, right? That's a great conversation. You're gonna have some fun with him. But you know, when you bring people that may not trust law enforcement, may have a different point of view. Was that part of the original philosophy of the podcast?
Yeah, it was part of the original philosophy because when we created the platform, we said we wanted to, again, create a lane to not only be a spokesperson for our brothers and sisters that are out there. And by the way, you guys were all talking, and me being the host of our thing, like my head goes 100 miles an hour. And if this was like the Fiorica family Sunday dinner, I would have interrupted every single one of you guys. Because everyone at the dinner table, everyone gets a word in, no one listens to each other. So it was so tough to sit here and listen for a second. Anyway, so.
That's not new because of the podcast.
Yeah, it's correct. It's totally. And by the way, it's all on our ethnicity, right? The Italians, everyone wants to get a word. Hey, how you doing? So, But yeah, so we wanted to create that lane like I was explaining earlier, and we have said from the beginning, we welcome all opinions. And we don't care if it's directly polar opposite of ours, as long as we can come in and talk and have an educated conversation, respectful conversation, which is why we sent out Rachel Barnhart. Rachel came on. And she'll tell you, if you look at some of her tweets after she came on, she's like, hey, thanks for coming on. It was great. I had a lot of friends tell me not to do it, but I'm so glad I did. We had Joe D'Amelio on. Joe's a high-profile defense attorney from the old neighborhood. But, yeah, so Joe D came on, and, I mean, he's a defense attorney, right? He's on the opposite side of the field, right? I mean, we're the Bills. He's the Miami Dolphins. I mean, at the end of the day, we have – anybody that wants to come on, and we're not going to get into it. We talked a little bit off camera, but we have reached out to many different people, different organizations. And if anybody's listening, reach out, thecrimedogpodcast.com to our producer, Danny Agnew, who was going to be here today. So shout out to Danny because he's the one who makes us look great. But we will welcome anybody on our podcast, especially opposing views.
Right.
I was just going to say, sure, we might not be the smartest group collectively, right? But I think we can talk intelligently about our careers and how they've been impacted and the positives and the negatives and what's going on. And the guests that we've had, just like Johnny alluded to, some of them, in theory, sit on the opposite side of the aisle that, maybe our views don't lie with. But when you have somebody who's willing to have that conversation and listen, when Rachel was on, I think she heard what we said. We spoke from experience and we talked about actual things that we've seen and done, and you can't refute that stuff, right? I mean, I'm not making it up. We've done it, we've seen it, and that's how it's impacted us. And I think she, saw value in that. And we certainly, she's a very analytical, and she, looks at the numbers and that, and that's her wheelhouse. And I'm certainly not arguing that, but people's perspectives count, And,
they do, and you're willing to listen to that, but also you learn. I mean, whether you like it or not, sometimes you'll learn from other. If you're willing to listen, you might pick up one or two things, and that's what we've gotten away from in America, right? In general, this whole country's dug in their foxholes and just screaming and yelling at each other to the point of absurdity, and that's what I like about you guys are willing to step out and respect the other person's opinion, listen to it, and have an educated conversation. Dave, I cut you off.
No, I would just, when Rachel came on, I think we all had a great deal of respect for her for just walking into the lion's den of our podcast, and she came strolling in just herself, and I respected the hell out of that. And when we were talking to her, there was some things we completely disagreed with her on, some things we found common ground on. But I also respected her, and I'll say this about her, and I say this all the time, she will go after anybody. So it ain't a Democrat or Republican thing. No. If she thinks you're doing wrong, she personally feels she's
DNA,
doing it,
yeah.
she will go after it. And I respect that, because she's not doing it based on party lines. She's doing it about what she believes is right and wrong. And, at the end of the day, I thought it was a good dialogue, and I respected that.
One of the things we like as cops is consistency, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to just be consistent, right? And we don't have to agree on everything, but she is consistent. I mean, she's taken some shots toward Todd a few times, and
Right.
and whether I think I'm right or wrong, the fact is I truly believe she's doing what she believes, right? And and that's just an example. Rachel's an example of one of those things you guys are really trying to get that word out and force, if you will, conversations. I know you guys extended some other invitations, you said, Johnny. That's great. I hope some of those folks will come on with you and just converse and realize the DNA of the cop. I mean, you guys are great. One of the things you do really well is represent law enforcement in a very logical, very educated way, real time, because you're still wearing a uniform, right? But tons of experience. It's so powerful, this message. Going back to your experience, Dave, we were SWAT cops together, right? And it was, like you mentioned, a different style of policing back then, or if you will. Things have changed. The high-risk warrants we used to do, right? The narcotics warrants, the narcotics work you guys did day after day of hitting the gatehouse and gatehouse. Things have changed, right? And we've morphed along with that program, whether we like it or not. But I think for sometimes, people look at it as a negative. The fact is, every organization evolves, right? Every organization has to evolve. We look at our friends at Kodak, right? They didn't evolve. They had the digital camera in their hand and failed to evolve. So we have to evolve, but also we don't give up on our core principles. We're public safety.
Yep.
And we have an expertise. And that's one of the things I think you guys bring out, and this is a long introduction, that you bring an expertise to the table that no one can refute. I mean, if you do a job for 90, 100 years combined here, you got to say we got an expertise in it. It might not be perfect or right all the time, but that's something you're bringing to the table.
Right, and we speak about violence because we worked in a very
bodies, man.
we picked up the bodies. We got guns off the street. We got a lot of drugs off the street. We caught a lot of wanted guys, and I think when people listen to us, I think they at least know that we, if we're going to talk the talk, we walk the walk.
Right.
So.
Well, and it's we said this, and this is not a knock on any agency in Monroe County or statewide, but when you've worked in the city of Rochester and you've worked the GUT and you've worked 3rd Platoon or Midnights, in 3 or 5 years, there's not much that you haven't seen or done.
Right.
You've worked major incidents, you've worked homicides, you've worked you name it, and that speaks to somewhat of the credibility that we come to the table with, because we've all been there and done that. We all worked 3rd Platoon and Midnights. Right. We all worked in the GUT, and as our careers progressed, we got off of those shifts, but we still were working in the city, and that's where we made our careers, made our homes.
I say this a lot, when I'm trying to influence people that might be in legislative positions and things like that, like, just come with me one time to make the notify. That's all I'm asking you to do, right? It's easy to sit back in these think tanks and read the white papers and pass legislation. Just go knock on the door once and watch the eyes of the mom, right? And we've all experienced that one way or another, whether it's a motor vehicle accident or a homicide. That's all. We have expertise. We have opinions. We got points of view that need to be considered here, and you guys are bringing that to the forefront. And I congratulate you on that. That's pretty powerful.
Well, I've always said, excuse me, one of the things that I think collectively we all have never done is we never brought the job back to our family. And when we did sit around at gatherings, I think we just told them the funny stories for a lot of reasons. But I've always said the things that my eyes have seen and my ears have heard, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. When people say, "Tell me the worst thing you ever seen," or "Would you?" I'm like, "You don't want to. I don't want to do it to you," But we go back to our podcast, and when we have subject matter or topics that we're choosing to discuss, sometimes it's on the whim. We have software called Riverside, and our producer will be like in a text chain, "Okay, man, this came up, boom, boom."
Hey, write that down, Riverside. Okay.
Hey, by the way, wait, let's get sidetracked like we do on a podcast for a minute.
Chase the ball, Johnny.
Chase the ball. Hang on. The staff here, from Mikey the PIO to Amy Young, I don't know which ones.
I can't get Dan to give me a beer when I'm doing that.
I mean, from the camera
we
guys.
We hired the A-team here, brother. We hired the A-team.
Listen,
recruitment.
That
stays here, by the way.
Hey, Johnny drank out of it. Nobody's ever going to let that cup with you.
You got our mugs at Spencer's in the mall.
They're like skulls on it.
They're skulls.
They're like black. They're just black mugs. That's it.
You get 3 or 4 of them, you get a little mood ring or something.
Yeah, a lava lamp.
A lava lamp.
I forgot what I was saying, so good night, everybody. Anyway, so what I was saying, when we have topics and subject matter, so sometimes we plan the interviews, right? We have topics, and we'll all collectively discuss, and then I'll just fire off an outline based on the discussion that we had in a text string or on a group phone call or on email, and then that's planned, right? But Riverside is the software that we utilize when you see us in the 4 panels, kind of like the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
And those are like, oh, shoot, we got to talk about something now, i.e. Sandra Dorley, i.e. Scotty Scheffler. Right. And I mentioned those specifically because we said common sense has arrived, and we constantly use the term shooting it down the middle. We shoot it down the middle because, yeah, we are law enforcement. We're loyal to our home jersey is law enforcement. However, if we see something that is incorrect or maybe something that not so right, Scotty Scheffler out in Louisville, Kentucky, that PGA tournament, we said, God, man, this doesn't look right. The one thing we didn't do, we didn't jump on it right away.
That was the key.
We waited. We sat back in the bushes.
Hard to do.
It's very hard to do. So we waited, and then we said, okay, we got enough information. Man, this cop was not correct. But we didn't really crush him and bash him. We just explained what happened, and you know, that's the same thing
How things could have been done a little better.
Yeah,
Correct.
And what profession doesn't have that every day?
And the other thing is, we always don't agree to eye to eye, right? We've said there's 100 ways to skin a cat, and Johnny's perception of an incident might be a little bit different than my perception, and that's kind of the beauty of it, right? Because in law enforcement, there is some discretionary powers that are involved, and to look at stuff and to still come to the same conclusion, but maybe say, well, I think that this could have maybe been different, or this was different. It's those are valuable, insight or opinion as it comes out, and we're progressing through this podcast,
the minefield.
Yeah,
and I was surprised. I was impressed by the agility you guys have of putting up a podcast. You mentioned some real time incidents occurring. You're not waiting for the scheduled Tuesday afternoon, right? And that's important for, again, getting perspective from a police officer out there forthwith. And from our point of view, maybe not the correct, maybe we don't have all the information, but when it's appropriate, here's what I'm thinking as an experienced police officer. Here's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, so we do, like I said, we have our planned interviews. Those are scheduled out, and we have set times, and those will drop. All those planned ones, no matter what happens, we drop something on Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and our YouTube channel is at Crime Dawg Podcast, Crime Dawg with a D. AWG. But you can go to our website, thecrimedogpodcast.com, and see the library of episodes that we have there, and then it will forward you or redirect you to our YouTube page. But
He's good.
Yeah. Really is good.
It's impressive.
He's a good point guard, that's for sure.
All in one breath.
Distributes the ball.
What do I always say? It's amazing for a guy who got his 520 on SAT, right? So
520.
520, that's it.
So what street you grew up on?
Bloss Street.
Yeah, okay.
So old neighborhood.
The old neighborhood.
But what we talk about is the East Rochester. So what we talk about is these Riverside ones that just pop up. Those ones that we do, those 4 panel. And you're right, we don't have time to really. We're talking basically from our experience, from our heart, to tell the audience and our viewer, hey, listen, this is what we see too, but this is what you see. Like we did it for the Dale Street, the traffic stop.
Right.
And we did one, and we said, whoa, hang on, pump the brakes here. Police work's ugly. It looks ugly. Just because it looks ugly, it makes you, the viewer, the non-cop, if you will, uncomfortable. It doesn't mean the cops were wrong. And that's important for us to convey to our audience,
Right. And these are things that we talk about behind closed doors. A use of force is never pretty. Right?
Shouldn't be.
100% justified use of force is never pretty, because in other parts of the community, we might call that a fight. You know what I'm saying? We are trying to detain and control, right? But the idea is, if a no person's not complying with you, it very seldom looks pretty after that. But the fact that you guys can get on there with some expertise and articulate those points, I think the cops are really enjoying it and sitting back and going, here's another point of view. So let's talk about those scheduled ones. Where are you guys come up with these ideas? I mean, so I seen Donald Trump on there. We could talk about that as far as tactics.
Yeah.
Tactics.
It's got to make your head explode.
I don't have all the information, but man, there's just some.
You got enough.
There's some basic 101. That,
You got enough information.
I almost swore on there. I'm like, what the? Come on, man.
I told my wife that was like, she's in banking, and I told her that's like 2 + 2 is 4. Like for a cop to know to get rid of high ground and make sure that's secure
that's
is like
not even SWAT stuff.
Yeah, that's basic.
That's
common sense.
That's recruit.
Right. Yeah.
Now you hear that the
Common sense has arrived.
they had snipers in the building, in that actual building, while he was on the roof.
Right.
But no one was out front. It's terrifying.
Inglourious
actually.
Bastards, the movie.
Right.
There's a line in there. You know what's wrong with fighting in a basement? You're fighting in a basement. Right? It's just the opposite. You know what's wrong with the tactical situation? You don't own high ground. I mean, so I got a little crime dog podcast with me. See, I could do this too.
See, it's easy.
We're waiting for you to come on.
It was funny because we have a list on the computer at home, and we did Lonsberry back, and we fill in for Bob when he's away. We do like one day if he's gone for a week.
That's great.
But when we did it back in April for the first time, and our producer constantly says to us, Johnny, what are you going to talk about? I'm like, I have no idea.
That's
we have
the best.
We have no idea.
Absolutely.
We have no idea. And we figure it out.
Talk about the hair.
Jason's got some great lettuce on top of his head, man. It's unbelievable. His hairline is unstoppable, by the way.
Thank you.
Just pure jealousy on my side.
It's a little gray, but it's
It looks
hanging
great.
A little gray.
Like, from the guy who doesn't have a lick of hair.
Not
He's
a
like,
lick.
Man.
Sorry, we cut you off again.
I don't even know where I am right now. Where am I?
Last day.
Yeah, so
no
we
free
do
range.
like the topics and the subject matter and the people and the guests that we have. We schedule our guests out. We got some really good ones. We have actually probably 5 episodes in the queue. In the queue. I'll give one away. We had Gary Craig on. I talked about
Craig.
Man.
I love Gary.
He was such a cool
The last one
interview.
we did was really good.
With
Yeah.
him?
Yeah, we got 3
I haven't
separate
listened to that
Gary.
one yet. Really?
They're all in the
dropped
queue.
yet.
They're all true crime stuff.
And then we have
Gary's
one. We have a guest that. Well, how long have I looking forward to her coming on? Right.
Yeah.
Kim Butler, Dr. Butler came on, and
How'd you feel after?
God, she was great, man.
It felt dumb. Felt really
Yeah, I mean,
I felt
first of all,
I felt like I had no soul.
Wait, how about-
half the things she was saying I never felt.
So when we went to hire her, we
what
all
a
know
great-
the best of the best in our community that has a certain job. Best school teacher you ever met, right? Best school.
Yeah.
She is literally the best of the best when it comes to the mental health
is.
community. And
Hands
I'm
down.
so happy I got to hire that lady. Like,
well, you had some great acquisitions.
She
by
was,
the way.
yeah. We spent a lot of time in acquisition of talent.
Well, she talks passionately because you can tell she believes in it, right?
Logically, rationally.
She is all in on mental health and law enforcement and military, that mindset of people who are out there, and I mean, she's all in on it, and you can tell. I mean, she's
Our threat management teams. I mean, she's given points of view on that threat management stuff that helps people, right?
And it's common sense stuff. She doesn't
Talking
sound like a
down to
doctor,
you,
or anything.
Yeah.
She sounds like a regular person that's like really talking common sense. She makes it simple.
So I was, I mean, as you know, I was on the hostage team for over 20 years, right? And you SWAT guys love us.
Yeah, we
hostage.
love you. Yeah, keep on talking. Keep on talking.
I'm freezing out here, Johnny.
Oh
I'm
my
freezing
God.
out here.
Man, this van is warm. I'm gonna
Keep on talking.
ADD guy was like, "Oh my god, how much longer?"
I'll just finish this right now.
Somebody shut Johnny up, will you please? Anyways, but thanks for all those rides in the Bearcat over the years,
You're
Sheriff.
welcome. You're welcome.
But anyways, but when I saw Dr. Butler about 5-6 years ago, she spoke. Man, was she awesome! And she was at a hostage, like just a local one. Your guys are there. Your guys are there. It was a local thing, and I looked and I go, who's she? Because literally, like David said, she has the brain capacity to break it down and talk at a common level, you know what I mean? And where it applies to your craft.
Appropriately, yeah.
Appropriately. And now I've been to conferences where there was psychiatrists and psychologists that just wanted to try to impress you.
And your eyes glossed over it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, MCC Brockport right here, man. You know what I mean? So, but what do you say about Brockport?
It's the Harvard of the SUNY system.
There you go.
They just don't take anybody.
Yeah, they do.
They just do not take anybody, David.
Yes, they do.
Okay, they
Yeah.
didn't take you. Jay Blanchard,
I didn't apply,
esteemed
Jay.
alum.
You didn't
Do you see?
apply.
Esteemed alum.
They
It's
didn't have a hockey
it's like
team
a
good
quiet.
enough.
It's like
They
a,
kicked you
have a
down the
hockey
thruway
team.
to Fredonia.
Yeah.
They said, beat it.
yeah.
Do you see how our pocket? It's just like we want to do like a blooper reel.
As long as we're complimenting people in Monroe County, I'm happy. So
There you go.
Brockport's a good college. I heard that.
Yeah, Rockport. But Kim Butler, I mean, she was not that psychiatrist or psychologist that came on. And even on the podcast, which I can't wait to drop it,
Yeah.
she was really cool in the way she talked about the way she does things. And I'm just saying this, man. I'm not giving you lip service. You hiring her was the greatest acquisition, I gotta say. You
And
know,
if a cop listening to
besides your camera guys over here,
and if a cop listening to that podcast, like,
yeah,
seeks her out,
Yeah.
that would be a win because she definitely made it sound like, like the old way they did things. What they call it, OAP or something like that.
Yeah.
The old, and it was like, well, I'm not going to the hospital. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but she makes it seem so easy and natural. Like, I think guys would really reach out to her if they hear
We
it.
have deputies at roll call seeking her out. Hey, can I talk to you after?
That's
You know,
awesome.
when we get to that point in our community
Yeah.
of law enforcement, we're very proud A-type personalities that bury that stuff for the rest of our lives,
Yeah.
right? And it does bad things to us. And, you know, I look at it's a force multiplier, you know, because the healthier my deputies are, the healthier we're going to be to provide the service we need to provide, but also longevity. I mean, we're dying at 57 years old.
Yeah.
The job eats us up.
eats you up.
It eats you up. It's not the bad guys, you know. It's the stress and the cumulative thing, and the bosses, and the change of policies, and you know, and to be able to release that when you have deputies saying, "Can I talk to you after roll call?" in public, we're changing that paradigm. It's really
Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about that with Kim, with the doctor, because when we had incidents that went in our generation, right? It was, okay, there was a police shooting last night in Clinton section, and then you sat in a roll call with 22 guys, and it's like, how you guys feeling? Is everyone okay? Now, with a bunch of male testosterone-driven alphas in the room, most of us, you're not talking in front of anybody. You know, you're not saying anything in front of everybody, but the way she has a game plan that she explained to us, it was really cool.
I can't
So
wait to listen to it.
kudos to Kim and great
So,
friend.
you're going to say something, Dave?
You put in the gyms in all the sections, that was a huge score because I've always advocated, I was always worked for bosses that allowed me to work out when I was working, and that was one of the best stress relievers when I was working, even if it was a 30-minute quick workout, and
yeah.
that's huge. I mean, I think law enforcement across the country should be encouraging their guys to work out as much as they can because I think it's the release they need, and the fact that you have them in the subsections and stuff like that is awesome.
Yeah, good use of garages that were never being used besides storing motorcycles and bicycles. Yeah, and people were willing to come forward and donate that. That's an amazing part. It wasn't a heavy lift to raise funds for that. Those gyms. We got a beautiful one downstairs in this building. It's like I call it my Rocky gym. It's the old basement of
Right.
the city PSB.
Oh, you converted that?
Yeah.
That was the dungeon.
So the erotic part is the office I sit in right now. I got hired by the RPD, and Gordon Erlacher hired me in that same office.
Really?
Years later, it's now my
There's
office as a sheriff.
There's someone we should
Yeah.
have on. That would be a good
I
conversation.
actually,
You reach out, look at you.
I'd like to have that conversation.
he's a great guy. Have you ever talked to him?
I had a couple of beers with him.
He's a really
Next door?
fascinating. He's a fascinating guy.
Most.
Oh, almost okay.
Yeah, he's a very fascinating man.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to have
I
that
mean,
conversation.
and listen, we talk honestly, right? We talk shoot it down the middle. That guy, and I never had the opportunity to work for him. I came on just a little after the incidents. However, but he is like, I hate to use the term, right, Jay? Cops cop.
Cops cop.
But he was, anyways, yeah, we're going to reach out to Gordy.
Interesting. Yeah, and Terry Ricard just passed not too long ago. Deputy Chief. Those are the bosses when I came on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got hired in the same office now I sit in. I walk in there like, I was here before, 1987.
So, you talk about our list. The main guy that we've been stalking forever was Don Elhart. We talked off camera on that. And you said you might have him come on next week?
Yeah, he's coming on.
We're going to kidnap him
Okay, so-
before he gets
Yeah,
here.
so I'll let you know when and where, and you just grab him on the
just
door.
grab him on the way out.
The best of the sheriff beat us to the punch, so he's
Again,
I didn't bring it up.
Hey,
He brought it up.
look at
See-
I was minding my own
Do you
business.
see those 4 stars he's got?
Yeah, 4 stars.
See my collars?
Coffee cups
I
with his
got
name
nothing.
on it.
That's what juice gets you, right?
I'm some guy that was trying to kidnap him.
He's got juice. He's got him on.
He's unbelievable.
He's not going to come on now.
It was a gentle kidnapping.
It was more of a nice kidnapping.
It was a redirection.
We're going out for coffee. You just don't know it.
Is that Johnny hiding behind the plant? What's going on over there?
I have the newspaper with the eyes cut out.
So my Gary Craig stories, I get out the grease as the new chief. 28 days in, we have a gangland style triple homicide. A bunch of Jamaican guys rolled in and killed. Everybody the whole world came to that, right? So we end up making the apprehension in Arizona. All 3 bad guys in the right place, the right time in Arizona on a golf course. Foot chases ensue and all this, and we do the search warrants on the place. I fly my detectives out there. Long story short, 25, maybe 30. No, it had to be 30 days later. Gary Craig, doing his job as a DNC reporter, just following up with affidavits in Arizona, and for 25 cents, he got the affidavit that we used for the search warrant in Arizona.
Really?
It's freedom of information. Every 30 days, you got to reseal it. We don't know. We're Rochester cops, right? We're New York State laws. And
for a quarter,
he got that affidavit. And he's calling me and saying, I got some great information, but Gary, if you report that, it's still an open investigation. Plus, we don't have these guys are bad dudes.
Yeah.
He's very good about
you report some of this stuff, people are going to die.
Yeah.
I wasn't exaggerating. And he did his story as a professional, but he did it with the thought of law enforcement and also those potential victims in there, because there was names and phone numbers, as you guys know, right? And they're buried in that. And I'd hire that guy as a detective tomorrow. He is so tenacious and big, and the information that's in that brain. I can't wait to hear those. You did 3.
3 of them. Wow. 3 separate hours.
The last one was the double initial. We talked about the double initial murders, and I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I mean,
wait a minute. The one thing not to cut you off, David. Yeah. So in my small little brain here, I got to process something.
Bloss Street.
So you
move the other side of the subway. Otis Street, we'll be all set.
So you flew your guys down.
Yeah.
And so we went after gun runners and gun toters and dope dealers and distributors. Never once did any guy that I ever lock up have golf clubs in the trunks. These guys are on a golf course?
They lived on a golf course. I don't know if they were golfing, but the house, the video cameras of us taking them into custody, them flying over the back. They're running through golf courses in Arizona. They're originally from Columbus. I don't know how they ended up out there, but
everybody wants to retire out there.
Everybody, they ended up on a golf course in Arizona.
Wow, that's
leave
impressive.
Rochester, New York, and kill
that'd be a dream to catch a guy and tackle him in a sand trap. That'd be
Never
great.
once was there like a set of ping zings in the back of the dope dealer's trunk.
Some
That's
divots.
awesome.
There'd be some divots in that golf
there
course.
were some divots.
Divots in that golf course.
Well, I thought you meant the bad guy. I
Gary Craig.
Gary Craig, man, he's a rock star, dude. I can't wait to drop those ones. We like I said, shout out to our producer Danny Agnew. He does a lot of post-production stuff for us. He's got to clean up this mess that we got going on, Todd. I mean, at the end of the day,
he doesn't have to hit the bleep button though, right? I mean, you guys are all set there.
Yeah,
he cleans it up after.
He sometimes if we have too many gratuitous ones,
or for arguing,
David gets a little overzealous sometimes. He gets passionate.
Yeah.
My mom calls
we do have it's not a blooper reel, it's a behind the scenes. And
that's gonna be good.
Between these two, by the way, it's
bantering?
like two. Oh, I don't know. Sometimes bantering turns into, I don't know if it's going to be a boxing match. I don't know how it's going to end, but
what you're talking about.
It's a full-on argument, but we're laughing.
The utmost respect for David. Nothing.
This is where Jason settles back into victim mode.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sheriff, I've told Johnny and David on multiple times on our show, it costs nothing to be nice. They're always attacking me. I don't understand why, and it costs nothing to be nice. So I just
well, wait. Now that we're here, though, speaking of our guests, are you gonna come on the pod or?
I'll have to check with the legal team to see what's.
Check with the
in
legal
a heartbeat,
team.
Dave.
Oh, okay, heartbeat. I'm looking at you like,
check with the legal team.
Look at Dave.
I was like, you are the legal team.
Yeah, every 4 years I go through the legal process. I'm an election. It's a beautiful thing.
I'm like, who's above this guy?
Oh my God.
you can even bring your whole entourage. If you want.
Man, we would love it.
When we came in here today, it was like
Plenty of room.
Yeah.
It's big.
I said VIPs to come and treat them well.
It was like Sinatra
Say
walking
thank
into
you.
the sands back in the day when we came in here.
Oh, that'd be great if you brought like your whole team that was behind the scenes on this thing that people can't see. Yeah, bring them all. Bring them all.
As you guys are getting ready to come up this morning, I'm like, I don't think you understand the characters that are coming. I don't think you understand. You got to meet these guys.
Well, they must understand because I'll tell you what, this is the best Buffalo Trace, best Buffalo Trace I've ever had. Nice and cold.
Bourbon. That's good bourbon, by the way.
Not like Buffalo Trace at 11:30 a.m. in the morning.
It's called breakfast in retirement.
So I had Middleton when I was over in Ireland and did a little Redbreast and then hit the gin.
Is it warm?
I drink it neat. Yeah, so.
See, I talk about that. It's funny that you said that.
like
That's
it.
like one of my go-tos.
You like it neat?
Yeah.
I do like it neat. I like to sip on it with a cigar, and sometimes I'll tell you what I do. I take the cigar,
Dip it in there.
and I go real quick, flick it off, and then when you take a pull off of
I
it,
taste it.
yeah.
Really? Never
Do
heard
it
that
red
before.
wine too.
Yeah?
Just drop the head of the cigar and the butt of the cigar there.
You don't like the red breast, or you don't like it neat? You like it chilled?
I like just one cube in it.
Yeah,
So
people
when-
like that because it changes throughout the process of the
Yeah, I'm
so,
not like a total connoisseur. I
Right.
just don't like anything too warm.
When you guys are doing your little stupid cigar dipping, do you take that plastic piece off the end of the white owl?
Oh, so you're basically saying that.
I'm
Oh,
just
the white
asking-
owl. did you
White
say?
owl.
I'm just
Did you
asking
say
a
white
question
owl?
because
But
I
see-
know you're white trash, so I'm just asking a question. If you take,
okay.
I'm not starting a fight on the sheriff's podcast.
First of all,
I'm asking.
we're 3 steps below white trash.
Thank
That's
you.
number one.
All right,
Number 2, you see how he pretends to ask a serious
logical
question,
question.
David, I
and
was
then
just
he
asking
just
the question.
Don't bring me into
It was
this.
so low key.
yeah, so low key. Do you pull the white tips off?
That's all I was wondering, Jonathan. That
Just
was
a
it.
question for the audience.
Just asking, so I had an answer. That
Right.
was all.
I'm sure the audience was like, I wonder if those guys have tips on the end of the cigar.
Yeah, we bought it at the Dell.
We were talking good whiskey there for a second. Then we went to
Jason ruined it.
Jason had to take it off.
That's why when
literally.
you call
This
in.
is like my 100th episode. I never talked about booze before on there. So congratulations, you guys brought me there.
Well,
Well, it's funny because I get excited because I tell everybody about it. Like a lot of people don't know about Redbreast, and it's such a great Irish whiskey.
It is.
and
And
it's easy to find. It's usually always in stock.
it's
Oh, is it
usually
really?
on stock, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've heard of it, but I
Buffalo
never-
Trace you can't find anywhere
Lisa's
in this
got
town.
it all the time.
So I picked up a good 10-year bottle. Never had that. So
Of-
over in
of
Ireland,
Red-
yeah. So I never saw it before. So it's sitting on the shelf at home waiting to be popped.
You should have brought it in today.
Well, maybe it's under the table. I don't know. Simpson looked real quick. Squirrel.
Oh, I love it. Man,
Hey, well, we kind of wrap up this podcast with a thing called the No Miranda Zone. You guys familiar with that? You guys are familiar with Miranda. I know
Sure.
how you train. You got to answer any question.
right.
You have a right to remain silent. Well, this is No Miranda Zone. I'm the sheriff, Monroe
Yeah, man.
County, so you got to answer the questions.
Let's do it.
So, favorite hockey team. Let's start with the hockey.
New York Rangers.
Really?
Yep.
Sorry.
Grew up watching them.
Sorry.
They were on TV when I was growing
I
up.
don't even know if you like hockey.
I'm not a
He likes
overzealous
ballet.
hockey fan
Likes
as much as I
ballet.
am for football. But favorite hockey team, I will support the hometown Sabres.
Oh, good. It's a good answer.
well, just like I told Rory Fitzpatrick when he came on our podcast, I am the king of the double blades at Edgerton Park.
Right.
I was never
I'm
able
weird.
to balance myself on it, but I do like to watch hockey. Big fan of the local guys like the Giantas and the
Right,
Fitzpatrick,
yeah.
Rory and all those guys, but I do support the hometown favorite, the
That's
Sabres.
good. So we got to go back to Edgerton
Yeah.
Park, right?
Yeah.
I skated over a few times, but I had the figure skates. I didn't even have the double.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I have no idea what I was doing. Right?
Catch that toe pick.
Yeah, catch the toe pick, but I didn't realize till a couple years later what I looked like on those figure skates. And
Not
then
pretty.
Thank you.
Not
I started
pretty.
hanging out with hockey dudes. I'm like, well, that was.
Were they white? Were they
no,
white?
they weren't white. They were black.
I think they were white.
He
He
took
Brian Boitano.
had the leg warmers on from like the,
David, they were white and he got the black Sharpie out and he colored them in.
he had the purple leg warmers.
I didn't know. Let's go skating at Edgerton Park. I'm like, I'm in.
Remember that? In the summer it was a basketball court, and
Yeah.
the winter was an ice skating.
Yeah.
rink. That's how you
Me
did
and
stuff
Joey
back
R.
then.
Lucas used to go over and shoot hoops, and
Joey Argo.
now he's making $1 million on it, and I'm a cop.
Great family there, Lucas.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's go one more No Miranda Zone. So, what's your favorite food of all time? What do you eat? What's where are you going with
So
this?
Man, in upstate New York, I think you got to go with chicken wings. I think that's probably I'm certainly not going to say salad, so I think chicken wings is probably the answer.
Yeah, no one thought you were going
Johnny,
to
you're
say
gonna
Thank you,
say
John.
pasta, right?
Johnny's not saying salad.
Sauce on Sundays.
that. I'm going to go with probably a ribeye. I'm a steak dude.
You smoking it?
Wait, can I tell you what I do now?
Yeah.
It's never a quick answer.
It's never a quick answer, right? That's why we got a podcast. I love cooking them on my Blackstone now.
Oh, really?
I'm dying for
Oh,
one.
you do?
I'm dying to get a Blackstone. So searing it and then let
Yeah,
it come up.
it
Wow.
comes. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I've
It's
never
fan-
cooked.
Oh, who thought?
You
you
doing
did
breakfast
that?
on that thing yet?
I have done breakfast on it. You could do anything on it. It's like you're like a short order cook. You're like the Charborough on Monroe Avenue. You know,
Spatula.
I got several spatulas going on. I got several things covering it up. You know,
This is all interesting.
You know what I mean? It was my idea. I mean,
Right, this is all
I
interesting.
found out about the
It take-
Blackstone.
It made grilling
Right,
simple,
this is-
didn't it?
Yeah,
This is
yeah, it makes
this is
grilling
interesting, Johnny. I'm glad.
Beat that, Sims.
I'm a steak guy, but I don't cook, so
No?
it's whatever. Either I eat out or
Uber Eats?
my wife cooks for me, or
Johnny's happy to grill it for you.
someone else takes care
Bring the
of me.
stuff over. I'll stir fry for
Yeah,
you.
I'm not a cooker. I have a lot of areas of expertise. The cooking is not one of them.
All right. Outside of 8 States from Maz, last book you read.
Oh, man, it was funny. I read Jimmy Fallon's book.
Did you really?
He's from Fox. Yeah, he's so funny. I read his book and Gutfeld's book. The last two. I actually read, believe it or not, short answer.
Right.
In retirement, when I retired last October in 2023, 3 books I read. 3. Which is a record for me.
Paint by numbers.
No. Yeah. It was Bratz was the 3rd book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So since you retired, you
3
knocked out
books.
3.
3 books in, and that's great for me.
Oh, I read about 20 a year since I retired.
I got ADD.
Do you really? Yeah.
I got ADD. I can't. I
start
mean,
I have like 4 going at once.
What's the last one you read then?
The Blood Money book about fentanyl and the Chinese
yeah,
and
yeah.
how the Chinese are totally behind it.
Do you read fact or
Tar,
do you read
yeah.
fiction or?
No fiction. I'm all fact.
Yeah, I can't do
They
that.
call that nonfiction, by the way.
Wow.
What did I say? What did I
You
call
said
it?
fact or fiction, David?
Fact. The fact book.
Man, David, get
Wall
this.
Street.
McQuaid.
Come on.
Aquinas.
Right.
McQuade.
By the way,
Oh,
David,
really?
he didn't really go to Aquinas. He was asked to leave.
I'm going to go Jefferson High School, so you guys are all set. You're all set.
Sheriff, you never even answered your questions that you asked us. You didn't give us your team, your hockey team, your food. And
Dude,
I got
you can't pivot. It's my
And
podcast.
I
We
got-
got to go to the last book.
and I got a
know what you're
question.
doing right now
He's
because
never
we didn't read the book.
I actually had a question for you too when you guys were doing your bourbon.
It was
dipping and
a comic book called Spider-Man.
I was going to say, I don't even
Archie.
remember the last. Besides
Archie.
8 States from Maz, I don't remember
Archie.
the last one that I read.
Oh, you did read? All right.
I did read the
Yeah,
you
good.
Listening to it is not reading.
Oh, okay, again.
Brett's got to narrate
Mr.
that, by the
Cum
way.
Laude over here is
Cum
gonna,
laude.
No, I would say that you can't listen to audiobooks. Does not
listen
count as
to
reading
it.
a book.
My wife and I argue about that all the time because I like to listen to books. You can do it while
I'll
driving.
give you the benefit of the doubt because you're a busy man, but
Right.
we are not as busy, so we should be reading books.
Yeah, when you get to be almost 60 with the bifocal, it's a lot easier to listen. A lot easier to listen.
I don't know if the sheriff asked us that question because I don't think he knew we could read. That's how I think he asked.
Definitely
us.
didn't
No,
think
it's
I
a canned
read.
question.
It
I
was
would
like
not do that
It's
to you.
like a trick question.
He
I
definitely
think
didn't think I could read.
I didn't want to ask you what was the last movie you watched because I didn't want to go that way on this podcast. So
Right.
I love to hear.
Air.
So with that, we're going to wrap up. Guys, congratulations on your podcast. Thanks for
Aaron.
sharing your perspective on our great career. We all love cops. We love being cops. And it's great to get that perspective out there. And I think more importantly, you're willing to open up the door and have conversations. That's huge. And that's setting an example for the rest of us to sit down and maybe converse with people that might not agree with you.
Well, thanks for
God
having
bless
us.
you
on.
guys.
Thanks, man.
Thanks
God
for
bless
having
you.
us,
Be well.